our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, and 49er fan, James Ham. James, what do you make of the day that the San Francisco 49ers had today, naming Trey Lance they actually didn't name anything regarding Trey Lance. Said Sam Darnold was going to be the backup quarterback and that they explore all options as it pertained to the former number 3 overall pick, Trey Lance, because you have 2 of them.
Yeah, that's tough. Like young players, this is just, it's not easy for them. I think that a lot of us were sitting here hoping that Trey Lance would take this monumental leap forward with the idea that if he did, he might be able to steal that number 2 spot. I think we now might be learning that any leap forward he took was like to showcase. That's what it sounds like. And that's a big deal. I mean, you want him to have value. You want him to be a guy that if you do go out and seek trade, that you can actually get something for him. I'm not sure that this is the route I would take, just because it's not like he's owed that much money this season. But the experience level of Sam Darnold is, you just can't ignore it. And he's been good in camp. He's been good in games. It's the throws that he can make that just like you're really surprised how good he is at times. And this is a Super Bowl caliber team that needs all the experience they can get at that backup quarterback position.
James, I've said a number of different times I'd have Trey as QB2. But I also looked at the 2 preseason games, which is what we are privy to, not the practices, so to speak, and all the training camp. We only go off what we see. And it's hard for me to say that Trey has looked better than Sam Darnold. If anything, I think they looked about the same. They've been the same when you talk about consistency, in my opinion. So it's hard for me to get in an outrage about him not being the backup quarterback, because I haven't seen him separate himself from Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, I don't think he's looked that good in preseason. He's just kind of been whatever. But he has, like Trey hasn't taken control of that situation and put himself above Sam Darnold in these preseason games. So they, Kyle and these other guys, they see him all the time, and they see a lot more than what we see. And whatever it is that they see makes them comfortable saying, I think this guy gives us a better opportunity to win if we had to go to him right now.
I think there's some very specific things that I would point to. Like if you go back to even the last preseason game, it's not, don't look at the numbers. Look at the plays that they make. And for me, like Sam Darnold had that dart he threw to Juwan Jennings early in the game. That to me was like a phenomenal throw. His pocket presence was there. He got rid of the ball quickly. He didn't hold on to it and take a sack for the most part. I mean, there's always going to be moments, especially when you're dealing with the backup line. But then when I go to Trey Lance, there were some things that, like, you saw some of the reasons why they drafted him. And I know it's weird, but the 2-point conversion attempt, like, you can, all these drives that he led and all that stuff, that's fine. A lot of it was game management. A lot of it was, some quality throws, and you just didn't make mistakes. But they didn't get the 2-point conversion attempt. But the throw that he had for that showed you the talent that they were looking at when they drafted him. They, when you're going high at number 3 and you go up to get a guy like that, you're looking for some of the attributes that you see in other quarterbacks. And what they were hoping is they would find a Mahomes, they would find a Josh Allen, they would find one of those players. They weren't looking for a Joe Burrow. They weren't looking for like a true pocket passer. They were looking for a creator. And I think that's when you started to see Lance finally relax a little bit and show what he could do. And to me, that's where you get tantalized by the talent. And I don't think that I would walk away from him. I just think that at the same time, you have to do what's best for your club, and your aspirations are something different. And it's a lot like what we talk about with young players on the Kings. It's like that. There are certain players that could be very good, but they may never get a chance, because once you get to a certain level, you're trying to build and get better. You're not trying to wait for someone to catch up and try to fill someone in and try to like have them grow with you when they're probably only going to play like a minimal amount anyways.
Kind of sounds like we're revisiting a post NBA draft conversation right there. Hammer, I thought that was a great correlation with Sacramento. In obviously, we believe that the Kings are title contenders. Virtually everyone believes that the San Francisco 49ers are title contenders. But the last thing this Kings team probably needed was a 1920, even, Monty's favorite 21-year-old, 22-year-old to come in and try to figure things out in the NBA while this team is trying to advance past the first round, past the second round. And, Monty made it really clear at the end of last season, he wants this to be a championship caliber team. The last thing you need on that is a first-year player trying to figure things out, which is probably why the addition of Sasha Vezenkov made so much sense for the Sacramento Kings. While there's no draft pick, you certainly you do kind of have a rookie stepping in here, certainly an NBA rookie stepping in to play with Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. I mean, you are looking at a guy who's a full-fledged veteran and a rookie at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that if you're a team like the Kings, it's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone who's affordable, that you can fit into your budget, but also that has potential to step on the court and help immediately. I mean, look, this is why they drafted Keegan Murray over a guy like Jaden Ivey or a guy like Benedict Mathurin or Dyson Daniels. Like, there are great players hiding behind him in that draft, or really good players, but you're going to have to wait for them. And if you have aspirations to, number one, climb out of the 16-year doldrum and turn into something, you have to, at some point, speed up the process, right? And that's what you do when you trade a young Halliburton for a slightly older Domantas Sabonis. Is what you do when you draft a 21, 22-year-old rookie as opposed to an 18, 19-year-old rookie. And I think that you're going to see the Kings play in this field for a while. They don't have a 2024 draft pick, most likely because of the Kevin Huerter trade. But you can also look at Colby Jones and say, okay, this is when you're drafting and when you're building a team like this, you aren't looking for another Tyrese Halliburton or another De'Aaron Fox or another Domantas Sabonis when you're drafting in the early second round or when you're drafting in the 20s. You're looking for specific role players. You're looking for people that can fit into your system, but that provide something that that you can count on. It's why a guy like Keon Ellis, you look at him, 3-and-D2. That's what he is. He's a 3-and-D wing. You see it all day long. You know exactly who he is as an NBA player, because that's exactly who he was in the G League and is exactly who he was at the college level. You look at Colby Jones, it's the same thing. They have, once you build out a roster a specific way, you're looking to fill little tiny gaps. You're not looking to fill massive holes. And I think that that's a good thing. That's where they are right now.
Do you think that ever changes? Do you think that maybe not the overall philosophy, but 1 year in the draft, they say, hey, let's we got a lot of veterans here. It's going to be hard for Colby Jones to get on the court, a Colby Jones type to get on the court. Let's take this 19-year-old kid and see if we can develop him and mold him into what we would want as a player, because he has a certain skill level already. Now, he just may need a couple years in our system.
I don't think so. Not with this group, at least. If we're talking at Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox, they have shown us who they are very clearly as far as how they draft. The only young player that they've taken at all was Jamias Ramsey. And they bailed on it quickly when they knew that it was going to take too long. And so for me, there is a value to their approach, which is know what you're getting. Know what you're getting. We're dealing with production versus predicted, potential. And so they'll take the productive player that they know who they are and what they're supposed to do and how they can fit in over a 19-year-old. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to do it every once in a while. I mean, Jeff Petrie drafted Gerald Wallace as a 19-year-old kid, and and he stuck with him for a little while. But when they had the expansion draft, he had to let him go, and Gerald Wallace went on to be an all-star player. And a lot of that.
That's kind of what I was thinking about. Not changing your philosophy, but every now and then, maybe Gerald Wallace is perfect, a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, you might do it once you're established and you're like year 4, year 5 into what you're doing. So you're looking at something that could be, a player that could take over down the road. Those are things that you're always trying to build for, but like it doesn't always work out. And having young players, it's great. They bring a good spirit and all that stuff. But by year 2, year 3, a young player is not getting any playing time. He's kind of had enough too, and he wants to try to go somewhere else and be someone else. And so I think it's sort of the life cycle of an NBA player and an NBA franchise. You get to a certain point where like this team should be building 3-and-D wings at the G League level. It's what they should be doing. It's what the Houston Rockets did when Monty was there, and it makes a ton of sense. You bring up guys like Daniel House who know their role. They go out there and they're 3-and-D guys. Or you create players like Tariq Black or Montrezl Harrell. You can go find these undersized center power forwards that come in and just, they play violently and they give you something different that you don't have. And so you can keep trying to create these types of players at the G League level. What you're not going to create at the G League level is another Keegan Murray or another Harrison Barnes. And you just can't think of it that way. You have to be able to bring these players along with a realistic point of view and try to help them grow into a role and be something that can help your franchise or someone else's.
Speaking of realistic points of view, James, could you explain Scal to us?
Oh, jeez.
I almost forgot this happened. Shout out to the chat.
Yes, I can explain.
Okay, please do.
Okay, so Scal, who, just so everyone knows, one of my favorite players to ever come through Sacramento. He has a kind soul. He is one of the nicest young guys you're going to find. He's been through more in his life than almost all of us combined. What he's seen and what he's been through with the earthquakes in Haiti, being trapped under a wall in his apartment for like 6 or 8 hours, not being able to walk for 2 or 3 months, having to learn how to rewalk and all this stuff, having to come to America as like a 13-year-old with that just gets, thrown into Memphis and like a new experience with a family to try to bring him along. He's a sweetheart of a person. He also is an incredibly talented basketball player. He just never, like a lot of young guys and a lot of big men, he just never figured out how to put it together for the NBA level. And so basically what the Kings have done here is they're going to acquire him from the Mexico City, I think the Capitanes. So they're going to acquire him. He's going to be on what's called an Exhibit 10 contract, which means he'll get paid, I think it's less, it's $50,000 or less. And that will leave him eligible to be sent to the G League. The Kings are also in that transaction will acquire his G League rights from Mexico City. And so he'll probably come to camp. And then at the end of camp, when he's waived, he will be allocated to the Stockton Kings. And so this is a way for them to get a look at a player who still has a ton of potential, still has a ton of, athleticism and a beautiful jump shot. He's only 27 years old. The Kings drafted him in 2016, or at least the Phoenix Suns drafted him, but for the Kings. He was a 28th pick in the 2016 draft. The Kings had the 9th pick where they drafted Marquise Chris from Sacramento. They traded him for the number 13 pick, which was Yorgos Papagiannis. The number 28 pick was Scal, and the draft rights to Bogdan Bogdanovic. And that trade actually worked out great, even though the 2 draft picks didn't work out great. The Bogdanovic deal did actually work out. And they also got a 2nd-round pick in that. So, this is a deal for the G League. And, like, will Scal have an opportunity? Like, sure. And if they have injuries or they have a big trade where they send a bunch of guys out, that's a whole nother thing. But, like this is what a franchise does. They're trying to build their program. And especially if you look at the Neemias Queta situation, we still don't know what's going to happen with Nimi. This could be a guy who takes over a lot of the time at center for the Stockton Kings.
Looking back at Scal, last time he played in the NBA, the 2019-2020 season, that's the bubble year, right? Like everything was good, and then the bubble happened. Yeah, that's the year that was. 5.8 points, 5 rebounds in 17 minutes for the Portland Trailblazers, almost a block a game. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like it.
Oh no, this is not the question.
Question
None
is
of this
why?
matters. No, the question is where's Harry Giles?
Well,
okay.
That's the question. Is where's Harry Giles?
I was getting there.
Okay, so I'll explain
We're
that part
handing
of it.
out contracts. Like, where's
Yeah.
the guy Kings fans? And I'm sure they love Scal too, but like they love Harry Giles.
That's who I want to see back.
Yeah, I think, like, look, just because you brought back Scal doesn't mean you can't bring back Harry, but just because you brought in Scal also doesn't mean you will bring in Harry. That's kind of one of those funny things that are happening here. Harry Giles is still eligible for a two-way contract. Scal is not. He's had too many years of experience at the NBA level, and an Exhibit 10 contract is really, by NBA standards, it's nothing. It's like a $50,000, like, hey, here you go. And then to be able to send him to the G League and have him be productive for you there, and to keep him in the G League as opposed to having him go elsewhere. Look, Sean did interview Scal. I haven't watched the whole thing, but he was immature, but he was also in a situation, and I don't mean immature as in he caused problems or anything else when he was in Sacramento. There was never a problem with Scal. The problem was that he, as a basketball player, was immature. Like, his game needed a lot of work. And I know, I remember watching Big Bob Thornton on Dave Yeager's staff. Just, he would have a big like arm pad and just beat on Scal. They were trying to toughen him up. They're trying to show him how to hold his spot in the post, and none of this stuff was working. And realistically, if you would have made Scal a little bit more like, I don't know, like Woods, like, I think he would have like been able to play on the perimeter a lot more, and he could have had some success. But what the Kings were trying to do at that point just was never going to work. They overloaded. We talked about it with De'Aaron Fox. We talked about it, about all of these young players that they brought in at the same time. It was just too much. And a guy like Scal got, he slipped through the cracks, and that happens. And I'm glad he's actually getting a shot to try to make it back to the league. We'll see what happens. You never know. He could have a great season at Stockton and get called up by the Kings or somebody else during the year, and you just have no idea.
It's not good enough. I want to hear Giles.
I point something out. Our guy Ramsey here. John Calipari admitted to not using Scal correctly at Kentucky. Yes, Ramsey, he did. He did that on my radio show. And for the record, I like John Calipari. Coach Cal is great at what he does. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason Scal wasn't back at Kentucky wasn't because Coach Cal didn't use him right. It's because he didn't want him anymore. Yeah. And he went to Scal and said, enter the draft, and I will do everything I can to make sure you get drafted. And when you get drafted, I'm going to hype you up to anyone who listens. That was the easiest interview we ever booked. Hey, let's reach out to Coach Cal, see if he comes on. Yeah. Hyped up Scal for 15 straight minutes. That's what those coaches do. Wasn't about using him correctly. He didn't want him back. He didn't have room for him. That happens far too much in college basketball.
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
The one player who fought through and just wouldn't leave was Willie Cauley-Stein. Just like, hey, I ain't leaving. I don't know what's going on, but this is college experience, and I'm down with this, and I'm staying. And Cal was like, hey, man, you got to go. We got other kids coming in. I'll tell you too, like, Cal
called Coach Cal's bluff. No, I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Coach Cal, he does, like, what he does is pretty amazing, but it's also pretty specific. His guards do nothing but attack the rim. They're dribble drive motion guards. You're talking Derrick Rose, John Wall, Tyreek Evans, just keep naming guard after guard, and all they do, they're inline drivers. They're people who attack the rim, break down the defense, kick to the sides. Their big men are told to stand in the post. They're chained to the basket. And whether it's Anthony Davis or it's Karl Anthony Towns or it's DeMarcus Cousins, that's exactly what all of them do. And then they get to the pros, and everyone in the league is like, holy cow, where did this passing come from? Where did this shooting come from? No, you don't get to do that at Kentucky. That's not Cal's system. And so certain players get lost coming through there, and Scal just happens to be one of them. I really do wish he would have been a player that had gone to a different school,
Yeah.
spent 2 or 3 years, because look,
Yeah.
he was very, very young coming, like as a 14-year-old, he's like, I don't know, like 6'4", and again, he had to relearn how to walk around that age. And like all of this stuff was very difficult. Like his whole entire journey to the NBA was very, very complicated. And so for me, I kind of wish he would have gone to a different spot. And I kind of wish he would have gone to a different team initially, because the Kings did not have the infrastructure in place. There were too many of these young kids. We talked about it before, where that draft, you're looking at Yorgos, you're looking at Malachi Richardson, who gets left behind. You're looking at Scala Bicier, who gets left behind. Like you get to the next draft and they've got 5 rookies. So you've got Fox, you've got Giles, you've got Justin Jackson, you've got Frank Mason, and then they talk Bogdanovich to come over. Then you traded for Buddy Hield between those 2 years. So all of a sudden you've got like 8 first and second year players on the roster, or 9. And that's just not conducive to winning. There's no way for Dave Yeager to have success in that situation. And all of those players, like how many of them are left in the league? And that's not because they were bad players. It's because the circumstance they got drafted to was not a like situation that can find success for anyone. De'Aaron Fox is the only one who found his way out of it, and good on him.
I was trying to do the math. I think I have this correct.
Math is tricky.
Yeah, it is. It can be, especially when basketball seasons are over 2 years, like two number of years. But I think Coach Cal was like, Scal, it's time for you to go. You got to go to Kentucky, or you got to go to the NBA. Time is now. Family needs, the money. You could be a first-round pick. And also, I've got these guys named Bam, De'Aaron, and Malik coming in next year, and I don't think you're playing over those guys.
Checks out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
college game is cold, man.
Yeah.
Especially college basketball. It's cold. It's
I think he was the team right before those 3 got to Kentucky, and that's the squad. That squad almost got him a national championship.
Well, with Cal too, it's all about how many players he puts in the league.
Yep.
He, at the end of the day, I don't even think he really cares about winning national championships. I don't. It's about how many players he puts in the league, because that gets him more players that he can put into the league. So it's a very strange system, but it works. It works for him, and it has for a long time, and dates all the way. He the same thing at Memphis. Didn't he do the same thing at like UMass?
Yes.
Yeah, like he's
the one and done. Like now, everyone's caught up, but he was ahead of the curve. He was ahead of the one and done curve.
I like Cal.
Yeah, so do I.
His players love him.
I know what he is. I've posed the question, and there's not a ton of evidence to suggest Coach Cal is actually a good coach.
No.
He's really good at what you're supposed to do as a college coach, but there's not as much evidence that he is an X's and O's basketball
There's probably
coach.
A lot of evidence that he's not that good of a coach.
There's a lot more that he's not than he is.
Yeah. I think we could have a bigger discussion about whether he's good for the game or not, because I think a lot of what he did was not good for the game. A lot of the players that came through there, he diminished their skills to make sure they fit into his system. I mean, it took Tyreek Evans, 3 or 4 years to regain his confidence on his jumper after going through there.
He wasn't doing anything illegal.
Right.
No. I'm saying whether it's good for the game, whether it's good for the players that are going through there. So.
I don't think that it is. I don't think the state of college basketball is good for anyone, unless you're like that dude,
right? And what I was gonna say is,
if you're a Scal, it's not good for you.
Coach Cal, from this, how I take Coach Cal, he basically says, "This is how things go. This is the system that's in place. This is how it goes. I'm just not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sell you this." The alma mater and the college experience. No, and he said this a long time ago. No, De'Aaron, Malik, Bam, you're here so you can go to the NBA. And
yeah, he's going to give you this pitch in front of a framed Anthony Davis jersey, in front of a framed DeMarcus Cousins jersey, in front of a framed De'Aaron Fox jersey. He's going to let you know that those jerseys behind me total $600 million. Well, one of them would have, didn't, but you know what I mean. Bam, you put Bam jersey over there. Like these 3 jerseys behind me total about $600 to $700 million in contracts.
Whereas Coach K for a long time was like, "Oh, it's
do it the right way."
Until Coach Cal said, "Stop lying to these people. This is how it gets done." And he blew by him.
No, until he realized, this isn't going to work.
Right.
I'm not going to be Coach K anymore if I keep coaching like this.
Exactly.
And then he became a one and done coach, and I think won.
Yeah, he won.
Yeah.
It's really difficult because the quality of players coming out of the college game, the athleticism, the skill, all that stuff is there, but the fundamentals aren't there. And that's a lot because of the one and done process. It's a lot because of the AAU process and, showcasing players. And it is what it is at this point. Like, I hope that there is some sort of changes at the college level at some point, but I mean, we're watching the G League Ignite and these other schools, these other things popping up that are taking away some of the elite of the elite. And, so it's becoming more and more difficult for a guy like Coach for Cal to do what he's been doing in the past.
Read a quick tweet. We got much more with James Ham coming up. I want to read something from our man, Nick Wagner. 49ers training camp, day 19 notes. Please listen to this tweet closely. I'm just curious about. I'm sorry. Please listen to this post closely. A fairly quick practice today, which was probably good because a whole bunch of players were missing. Most notably, of course, quarterback Trey Lance was not at practice as the 49ers are exploring all options, including a trade with him. Just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know what's going on.
Bunch of players missed practice. I don't know any of them except one. I know the one.
Yep.
We'll come back. It's D'Lo and KC here with James Ham on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Yeah. Cut day, baby. That key card ain't going to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know why you do what you're doing here. Because, like, I'm looking in the dead money stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Purse, spot track. I don't know. New team acquires only $940,000 in guaranteed money in 2023 and $5.3 million in guaranteed money in 2024. The 49ers dead cap is for 2023 is $8.36 million. And for 2024, it's $5.5 million. So you're not even saving. You're saving $5 million next year. That's it. $900,000 this year. I don't think that's going to be the difference between you getting a deal done with Nick Bosa and, Anyway.
Yeah, that money doesn't have anything to do with Nick Bosa.
No.
All right, let's check in on KSFM here real quick.
Ohtani leaves his pitching duties again today. After missing a start, came back today and left in the second inning.
Oh, I was going to say he was pitching, wasn't he?
Needs to cut that out. All right, I'm trying to push this go talk forward.
Shout out D'Lo and KC live on 2 stations right now.
Yes, sir.
Diana Rossini says, while the Trey Lance market may be quiet for now, this past spring, the 49ers and Vikings had serious conversations about a trade for Lance, but talks fell apart, according to league sources.
Vikings still haven't given Kirk the extension either. After this year, he's done.
Yeah. Yeah. What am I looking for? Call to win. No, that's not it. Call now.
If you guys want to go see 50 Cent in the final lap tour, you need to tap in D'Lo and KC as soon as we're done here and see, when 50 Cent Gives you the cue to call. Be calling number 9.
It's the kid 50 Cent. Casey always says.
It's the kid 50 Cent.
I was listening to you guys on 102.5 yesterday in the car.
Yeah.
Barbie's World.
And I realized that you guys aren't really working. You're just having like a dance party with each other in like another room. That's what it felt like. I mean, I'm sure it's work.
It's work, but this is
Very different.
This is fun.
Very different.
Yeah.
It is not nearly the workload that we do here.
No, but it was a good time. Like if that was my genre of music, I would love getting in the car at 4:00 and hearing you guys like jam it out.
Yeah, Barbie World is my shit.
Here, the boy's a liar. The boy's a liar.
I got a white boy on my roster. It's like bringing me pasta. Yeah. That's our shit, James. We be on it. Well, that was a different kind of dance party, sir.
Paul Pierce had a normal dance party. Should have been
dance.
fired.
It's a different type of dance party, sir.
Paul Pierce.
All right, we're completely set for when we start the show. Everything we need is set up. When we start the live portion of the show, I should say. Oh, man.
What time are we back?
I don't know. Whenever Jesse decides we're back. 25 seconds.
All right.
The boy's a liar.
She was supposed to be a soul boom.
The May version. All right, we're coming back, Hammer. Shout out to our very own James Ham, who said he tapped into 102.5 yesterday and
Big upstart guy, James Ham.
bet he heard Barbie World. I know that. I don't know how long James was listening, but I'm confident he heard Barbie World. That song lives in my head. Shout out Drew Down, who tapped in yesterday. We keep those phone lines open for you beginning at 4:00. You got a chance to win 50 cent tickets coming up as well when we hit the live portion of that show beginning in just about 20 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm just scrolling my Twitter.
49ers Twitter? Oh.
Not X, Twitter.
Okay.
And I don't know. Maybe I'm late to the party, but some mugshots on my timeline.
Yeah, well, yep, those are out there. The mug shots are out there.
Uh-oh.
Hate to see it. Except you don't.
Nope.
I don't think the mugshot isn't out yet.
Not that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that one. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. James, we had some fun talking about Scal there. We've had some fun talking about a variety of different players 15, 16, players 20 and 21 and all of that stuff. This upcoming season, this upcoming training camp, it's going to start exactly like last year's started, didn't it? It's about De'Aaron Fox, and it's about Domantas Sabonis. Those two things fall into place, everything else will fall into place with it.
I would agree. I'd also like we need to see what these players look like when they walk in the door. Like who was ready, who took on the challenge, who came back in better shape, who came back with more to their game, who's ready to compete and be part of this. I think that's always going to be a huge portion of the first couple of days of training camp. You know, I always joke with the coaches, like we get to day 3 and I'm like, okay, this is 2-a-days. Like who's sitting out? And they always laugh, you know, well, so-and-so. And that's not to say that people like didn't do their job in the off season. You know, somebody could stub their toe or just need a bunch of ice, you know, and they always take it a little bit easier with the veterans at some point. But it's a big deal to come into camp and reinvent yourself and be better than you were the year before, especially when the team goal has changed. And, you know, I think we talk about this all the time, how a huge portion of this team is 24, 25, 26. Like those guys, they're about to enter their prime. They need to show that there's another level, that there's something else that they can do, that they can be better, not different than they were, just better at the things that they did well the year before. Just get better at it, refine your game, be better. And so I'm excited to see that. Last year it was Trey Lyles. And actually, for that matter, if Trey Lance is traded, that would actually be a good thing because I wouldn't have to talk about Trey Lance and Trey Lyles all the time. It's horribly frustrating to talk about both those guys all the time.
James Ham and James Harden is just James Harden needs to be traded.
I know.
Well, James Harden just needs to go away. He needs to go away.
He needs to crawl inside his beard and just go.
Yeah, just go.
Yeah.
Hey, James, we've been doing these top 25 games all season long, or excuse me, last couple of weeks for the season that just passed. And yesterday we had games 3 and 4, which was game 1 and game 2 of the Warriors series. And I watched both of those games, and specifically game 2. And I was just so impressed with the Kings in that game. The toughness, the physicality they played with. And I came away from that saying, if this is the version of Sacramento Kings that you get from the start next season, I have no qualms with saying this is a title contender. This isn't just a cute story. They've got to make steps. I think they could be in the running to win a title if you get that type of game. And then obviously I feel the same way about game 6 as well. If you get that game 2 Kings team, game 6 Kings team, the toughness physically, mentally, and emotionally that they showed in those 2 games, I think you can have a championship type team. Do you think that they're there yet, or do you think there's a little bit more they need to do to get to that conversation?
I'm going to let you keep saying that. And so you can be the one who's really, really right or really, really wrong. Look, I really like what they've done. I like how they've built this roster. I like, we can go back to those games and there are specific things that stand out. At the same time, the NBA is usually a process, and getting better is a process. And I do hope that that last year they skipped 2 steps. And if this year they can skip another step, all of a sudden, maybe you are right. Maybe they are right where they need to be. I still think that they're one piece away from really showing me that they can be better defensively and of course be better overall. I think their offense is going to be great. I think their rotation is deep. I think everything is set up for them to be a really, really good team. And by that, I mean, I think that they'll probably be a 50+ win team. But there's always possibilities for regression. You don't know. There's always possibilities for injuries and setbacks and all these things that we don't like to talk about. And so while I understand where you're going, I don't know. It's interesting because I was sitting there and watching every single one of those games live. I want to see the Malik Monk we saw in the playoffs for 82 games. And if not, I need to see that for 60 or 65. The intensity, the talent, the skill level, the everything that he brought. I want to see a better version of Kevin Huerter than what we saw in the playoffs. But, if he is who he is last season, the 15 point whatever points per game and shooting 40% from 3, that's okay. But that's got to continue in the playoffs. And so I want to see how some of these pieces step up and become something that they, even if it's not better statistically, better overall. And I think we can all see the difference between a player who sort of plateaus at a specific statistical number, but can improve and get better as a player. And so that's what I'm hoping for. And, look, I want to see Keegan Murray in year 2. I want to see him in year 3 and see if this guy is the 20-something point per game scorer that the Kings believe he is. At year 2, I mean, there's nothing to say he shouldn't be 17.5 points and 6 rebounds per game. He has that in him in year 2, and in year 3, that would set him up to be a 20 point per game scorer. These are things that I'm looking forward to. So whether it's a 50-win season or whatever, what I'm hoping for is sort of the maintain and improve. Show me that you're as good as you were last year, the 48 wins, and then show me that you're a little bit better Show me that you can go into the playoffs with that mentality. You can, if you're a little bit better in the playoffs, you're in the second round. Where, I mean, took them to 7. And so that's where I want to see the progress from this team. And then once you get to the second round, it's all about matchups. Like, who is it that you face? And can you get past a team that maybe you just you're a bad matchup for them, or they're a bad matchup for you, and you struggle and you fight through. But like for me, I want to see the maintain and improve aspect of this, because I think all the pieces are there. It's just, we have to see it first. And like, I kind of want to see them show me that this is who they are again. Because last year, again, never losing after the first 4 games of the season, never losing 4 games in a row, like, was nuts. That's crazy. That doesn't happen all the way through a season until the last week of the season or whatever. But like, this team showed a lot of guts, a lot of grit, and they got to show it again. They got to prove that that's who they are.
Real quick, the 2 things about those 2 games that kind of had me feeling, 2 of the things that had me feeling some type of way about this team is, in game 2, that was one of the games in the playoffs where you've got real Kevin Huerter. He had 15 points that game. He was in foul trouble, but that's what the Kings look like. And with Sabonis playing the way he played, Huerter hitting the open shots, that's usually how it was. Game 2, you didn't get Keegan Murray much of it at all. Game 6, you got probably what people expect Keegan Murray to look like this year. 15 points, 12 rebounds in this game for Keegan Murray in that game 6. Huerter was closer to who he was. He got started later, had 12 points. So I'm looking at the situation like, those 2 games it's closer to what the Kings are at their best, as opposed to the rest of those games, when it's not even like those guys were there and they just got beat. They didn't show up. They weren't there. I don't expect those guys to not show up over the course of 82. I expect more of what we saw in games 2 and 6 from these guys. And those two games, those teams, they were tougher than a $2 steak in those 2 games. Tougher than a $2 steak.
It's really funny when we look at the playoffs, we want to overanalyze it so much. We want to put so much weight into what happens in this game and that game. It's such a small sample size. It's less than 10% of an NBA season. It's such a minuscule sample size. I mean, you look at the first 7 games of the season, the Kings they lost 4 straight. They're 3-4. Like, you go through like different points in the season where, a team is great and you don't want to get too much into it, but it could be one player stepping up, one player taking a step back. And so, like, if we had a larger sample size, like 2 playoff series or 3 years of playoff series, then I start to like finger point when a guy has a rough shooting series or has a, even rough shooting games, but I think it's something that we should always look back at and say, okay, look, we can break these games down and say they're part of the best 25 games of the season. The same point, this is 1 of 7 and it's like super, super small sample size. Whatever happens in those games, we can't make any rush judgments. That's why coming away and saying that Domantas Sabonis is the most overrated player because of 7 games, like 3 of those games, he was excellent. 1 of those games, he was really good. 2 games, he was not great. And 1 game, he was bad. Like, that's really the sample size you're looking at. And so how do you say he's horrible in a 7-game series when he was great in 3 of the games? And that's why
you weren't watching close enough.
Yeah.
Kevon Looney destroyed him. It was really just insecure Warriors fans who probably who runs the Bleacher Report Twitter account. An insecure Warriors fan.
Also going back and watching some of these games, they fouled Domantas a lot.
Man,
they were worried about him being physical.
Playoffs are different.
They were grabbing and slapping him a lot, and it wasn't getting called.
Yeah, I mean, you got to earn respect, and that's part of this.
I think that's ridiculous, James. A foul is a foul.
No, I'm with you.
Call it or don't. I hate that. No, and I mean, you're right. That's just so dumb. Like, if it's a foul, it's a foul. Call it.
No, I agree. I mean, and again, if somebody stomps on somebody, like how like these situations that happen throughout this series, like, it's just wild. And saying all that, like, De'Aaron Fox doesn't break the tip of his finger, doesn't get a mallet finger, like, they win.
Yeah.
Most likely they win. I mean, his last 2 games after the finger, it's not a mallet, it's the other one where it bounced backwards. But like,
fracture, is that what, no, that's the thumb thing.
no, you remember his finger went backwards. It just
no, you don't need to do this, James.
Okay,
You don't.
well,
it didn't get stuck like this.
I don't know
went backwards
Sir.
like this.
James loves demonstrating deformed fingers. This from Nick Wagner. 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan told someone he's really hoping Trey Lance will stay a Niner. This isn't a thing where we're giving up on Trey. You only get so many reps at it. We feel starting about 10 days ago, Sam really separated himself. We got to keep it real in that way. That's the first quote from Kyle Shanahan.
Who do you say that to?
He said it to another radio station.
Oh, I didn't know it already happened.
Well, that's why I said he told someone.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you just got to trust me.
Okay. No, because that one. Okay.
Yeah, no, I thought it wasn't scheduled for an hour too. No, I'm with you 100%. It caught me by surprise too. Nick Wagner tweeting away more from Shanahan on Lynch. I really hope when it's said and done that all 3 of these guys are here. We needed 4 guys last year. It doesn't happen much, but if we can have Trey as an option here, I would feel extremely happy about that. Okay, so here's my opinion now. I might have been wrong. My assessment of clerical work with Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. This does not sound like what this is. He sounds like Kyle Shanahan. I mean, he clearly said in the post before, Sam Darnold, Sam really separated himself. It appears the 49ers, regardless of whatever imaginary scenario I want to create, believe that Sam Darnold is the second best quarterback on their roster. I get why 49er fans are really concerned about that because we only know what we saw from Sam Darnold in New York. I'm disappointed if Trey Lance, if things don't work out with Trey Lance. I was really excited to see what things might look like with him as a San Francisco 49er. But I'm also of the belief I don't think we've really gotten a look at Sam Darnold yet. And part of that is because I hate the Jets. I think the Jets have destroyed quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, and they literally brought in one of a handful of guys they couldn't destroy. That's how incompetent their organization is. It's like, we have to make this idiot-proof. Aaron Rodgers, regardless of what I think of him personally, is idiot-proof. He system, coaching, front office, you can't screw up Aaron Rodgers. He's too good. So, hopefully we don't see Sam Darnold.
Hopefully not.
But I don't think if we do, I think if we do, we won't see the player that we saw in New York. Still, James, disappointed that, and I appreciate Kyle's sentiments right there. And there probably is a scenario where Trey Lance is on the roster. Probably a very real scenario where Brock Sam and Trey Lance are on the roster. I just don't see a scenario where Trey Lance is ever getting meaningful reps as a San Francisco 49er quarterback again.
Well, I think it's pretty simple, though. You've got a guy who's been in your system now 3 years and another guy who hasn't been in your system. So, like, just that in itself, at least Trey Lance knows the playbook. And so if you do have a situation where where Brock Purdy goes down and then next thing you know, Sam Darnold's filling in, but he takes a big hit and you got to shuffle in the third quarterback. I would rather have a guy who knows the system, who may not have the experience as an NFL quarterback, but who understands what the job is. And to me, that's what Trey Lance, you're going to pull back the playbook and you're going to simplify things. And then you would slowly add things in. But for starters, you at least know that he understands the base concepts. He knows what the plan is. He's part of the team. He's part of the leadership. He's part of the guys that have been counted on for the last couple of years. And you're just hoping that he has enough, that he can get comfortable and calm. So if you do need him, and like what we were talking about earlier during the break, like to trade him, you have like almost $9 million in dead cap space and you save $900,000. Like, there's no reason to trade him. To trade him this offseason when it's a 50-50 split. And maybe by the offseason, he's had enough time. to actually get on the field. And there's always a possibility. I mean, they went through it last year, 17-game schedule plus playoffs. Like there will be a possibility for him to step on the field, especially with a young quarterback ahead of him who already has a major elbow injury that he's recovering from and he's back from, but it's still there. It's not like that joint is 100% perfect and we're moving on and he's always going to be healthy. You never know. You know, you need to have depth at every position, but specifically that position, because we all saw what that looked like last year.
Yeah.
I, much like Kyle Shanahan, hope he stays on the roster.
I do too.
Well, yeah. Hey, I could be crazy, Kyle. I think that's up to you. I mean, I unless I'm missing something, like Kyle. If you truly want Trey Lance on the roster, you can have him. But I'm sure all parties are exploring, as we've heard, exploring all options.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't give him away for a 5th-round pick.
I don't. Yeah, we completely agree.
Yeah, you might as well wait just to be safe, because you do know, again, he can step in and help you. You know, or he might not hurt you. He might be able to help you get through a couple of games if you need him to, where you're going to rely heavily on the run game and you know, simplify things. And then maybe he grows into a role, but I wouldn't dump him just to dump him, because there's no real reason to do it at this point.
I agree.
2021? What year is this? What
We're
year
in
was
23? He was drafted in
2021. 2021. So obviously his rookie season, right? Last season and this season. That's where we are. Dude, we're going on like his 4th year of not playing football. That's concerning. Like that's and again, I feel terrible for him. But at some point, if I'm running a football team, yeah, dude, I'll give you a conditional 7th round pick. I don't know what this kid is. I didn't mind him not playing a year.
Right.
Now I'm like, I have no idea what this kid is. Absolutely none.
And he's 23, but Sam Darnold's only 26. Like, and the experience level, like he can't even, I don't even think he can catch up. Like if Trey Lance was just to get the job and start for the next couple of years, I don't even think he'd catch up to the experience level of Darnold at this point. And Darnold just turned 26. He easily could be your backup for the next 5 years.
Yeah, he's 40 in Adam Gase years, but
yeah.
Adam Gase ages you a little bit, but it's true. Sam Darnold is still pretty young, and I mean, hopefully we don't see either one of them. Hopefully we see Brock Purdy for 16 games, and then Sam can start the last one, and maybe Trey gets second team reps. I do think Trey's going to be on the team this year. James just outlined it perfectly. Kyle talked about it earlier. There's not a lot of benefit for anyone to trade him unless. And things change during an NFL season unless someone has a position for him to play right away. Because ultimately, more than anything, that's what he needs. I think he'll have a lot. I think he could potentially have a lot of those opportunities next season if a team is willing to roll the dice on that.
And the price should be lower, even lower than it is right now. Next
season, unfortunately.
Because you only got the 1 year. Too.
Right. But this year, it's probably an injury.
Yeah,
that sparks the market for Trey, or a potential market for Trey.
Trey Lance is like 4 months younger than Brock Purdy. Yeah. I mean, than the guy who was drafted last year. So, I mean, it shows you that like there is youth there. There is an ability to keep working with him on a budget price. I mean, again, $10 million in the NBA, I mean, the NFL world isn't that much money, even for next season.
Yeah, it only is for a player that's not playing. That's the only time where that money becomes like a lot. We don't have a ton of time left. You know what I did yesterday? I told you, hey, remind me. I don't even remember what I said. Hey, remind me of something. I don't remember what it was, but it's this. I scrolled back to our first Instagram post. I don't know why I did this, but I went and looked at our early show highlights with like bad camera angles, pre-Beijing, Gap. James's goatee is weirdly dark. Like it's really dark in the early days of D'Lo and KC. and just fascinating content from us.
We've come a long way.
We had a clip of Cam Inman on the phone, and it was just the ESPN logo like pulsing. It's just, man.
I think you guys have Adam Gase like aged me here. Like
we might have. I was like, wow, James's goatee is really, really dark in this video. Yeah, we've aged James. James, it was all cute when James was a guest, and James was like, oh, just once in a while. And James was like, no, I do this more. Now James worked with us, and that thing is just
sorry, James.
Yeah, sorry, James.
It happens. You guys will too. We'll get the white beard. I don't know.
Mine already is.
I might get it. I don't know if y'all see it.
Yeah,
you're gonna keep it dark.
Yeah,
you're not darkening it now. Tell us the truth.
Oh, you see, I got a couple over here.
You wash that gray right out of your beard.
You got good. That's good. That's good color right
That's
there.
the least the Lord can do. He took my hair on my head away from me.
All right, we got to go. We appreciate you so much for being with us. I'm sure